Japan, the land of the rising sun. Georgia, always on our minds. As we look around, we see so many things that bring Japan and Georgia closer together. Georgia is the home of peaches, pecans, Coca-Cola, Delta, UPS, and Aflac. It's also home to YKK, Murata, Toto, and Panasonic. 2010 represents the 30-year anniversary of the Japan-America Society of Georgia, a nonprofit organization with the mission to promote mutual understanding between the people of Japan and Georgia through business, cultural exchange, education, and social networking. This is the story of the cultural and economic impact Japan has had in Georgia, and the role that the Japan-America Society of Georgia played in building the friendship between the people of Japan and Georgia. Among a number of pioneers that helped Georgia reach out to Japan was former Georgia Governor Carl Sanders. In November of 1966, he established a sister state relationship between Georgia and the prefecture of Kagoshima.
We sent a delegation of people to Kagoshima, some from the Department of Agriculture and some from the Chamber and all. And they came back with a rousing recommendation. So I got the General Assembly to pass a bill to create the sister state with Japan.
The link to Kagoshima directed Japanese attention to Georgia and paved the way for regular visits between Georgians and Japanese.
During one of the Japan Southeast Association meetings in Japan, the society and a few other individuals went to Kagoshima. And when we got off the airplane, there were hundreds of Japanese children, and they began to sing Georgia songs. You could not find a dry eye among anyone. In fact, we could have used lots of handkerchief for the men as well as the ladies. That was very special, but the evening was spectacular. They had a show of koto players, 6 to 8 as I recall. And they played traditional Japanese music, and they were wonderful. And toward the end of the evening, they broke into Georgia on My Mind.
Maturing as an advanced industrial state, Japan's exports to the U.S. increased dramatically. In 1973, then-Governor Jimmy Carter encouraged Japanese investment to the state by opening a Georgia Trade and Investment Development Office in Tokyo.
Other states have put offices in Japan, in Tokyo, but through changes in administration, they have pulled back, closed down. Georgia is one of the few states, I don't know how many there are who have maintained that presence, but it's really made a difference in the commitment shown to Japan, and it's been reciprocated with the commitment that Japanese companies have shown to the state. Real important legacy, though, of Governor Carter and President Carter.
With the Atlanta airport as a major draw, Georgia was evolving into the transportation hub of the Southeast.
It was all about raising the economic well-being of Georgia people. That's what it was all about, the building of a great airport. The most often mentioned reason why a company will invest in Georgia or in Atlanta was air service. And we found this to be true with the international companies, especially Japan. We knew that if we could get direct service and direct flights, that investment would follow, and it certainly did.
Delta Airlines saw the huge benefits in having a Delta connection with Japan and Asia.
Well, at the time Japan Airlines began to fly here and Delta began to look at that opportunity, we really wanted to expand into Asia, and obviously Japan was the most logical destination. What we found every time we would start a new international flight, you would see the business opportunity just almost quadruple. And I use that term quadruple because that was typically the multiplier effect that you saw with new service to a new international city. And I can name a lot of different cities where we saw that come true in Japan, and Tokyo obviously gave us that opportunity.
Other assets that drew Japanese manufacturers to Georgia were a highly motivated workforce, raw materials, and low land costs. YKK and Murata were the first Japanese manufacturing companies to settle in the state. In 1972, a YKK delegation met Governor Jimmy Carter and one of his assistants, Cloyd Hall, who was originally from the city of Macon. The delegation was introduced to many Macon officials, solidifying both the business and personal relationships.
From that time, a wonderful relationship was developed in Macon, and more importantly, I think, between the founder of YKK, Tadao Yoshida, and Governor Carter, who became President Carter. Governor Carter really appreciated Mr. Yoshida's philosophy, the cycle of goodness, and that sort of, their hearts met at that point, I think, and that was a lifelong friendship for Mr. Yoshida, between Mr. Yoshida and President Carter. And so YKK came to Macon, and it was very centrally located from a business standpoint near the port of Savannah. It was also a great distribution area for the entire southeastern United States. So it worked out well from a business standpoint and certainly from a community side as well.
In April of 1974, ties between Japan and Georgia strengthened when the Consulate General's office in Atlanta was established, with Kazuo Chiba serving as its first Consul General. The Atlanta Consulate covers 5 southeastern states and continues to promote U.S.-Japan relations with the society.
Well, the Japan-American Society of Georgia plays a vital role in strengthening the goodwill between Japanese and Georgians, and the activities and groups sponsored by the society allow people to interact and creating a strong bond. Well, the Consulate General of Japan in Atlanta highly appreciates its relationship with the Japan-American Society of Georgia. Together, we teach Georgians about Japan, its traditions and culture, and we are very successful.
In that same year, the Georgia Nihongo Gakko, or the Georgia Japanese Language School, was created as a source of Japanese language education for Japanese children living in Georgia. Starting with only 9 students, the school has grown to over 400 students today. The opening of the school led to the launch of the Japanese Chamber of Commerce of Georgia in the early 1980s to assist its member companies in a variety of ways, including activities in the community and business arena.
Right now, in this economic situation, I want to put number 1 priority is help or the support to improve the business environment for members. How we can support business environment. That is, I feel, that's very important mission. And in order to do that, we need to be a very strong organization and a very good activity in our organization.
In 1975, Governor George Busbee extended the achievements of former Governor Jimmy Carter by changing state laws, making Georgia attractive for international investment. Governor Busbee particularly liked the Japanese community.
I think his sincerity and his sincere interest in the history of Japan and the Japanese people was the glue that made it all happen. And he decided that was where the future was, and he wanted Japanese companies in Georgia and went after them. And he was very, very successful. And from that, he also was the best economic development governor I think we've had. And he looked at a much bigger picture, not just Georgia, but he felt like if we could get Japanese companies anywhere in the Southeast, it would help us, because most of them would have to fly in and out of Atlanta. So it wasn't completely altruistic on his part.
Governor Busbee took the lead in creating the Southeast U.S., or SUS Japan Association. The organization was established to promote both business and camaraderie between Japan and its member states.